Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. We're going to give just a minute to allow people to filter in. While we wait for everyone to join us, if you could just throw in the chat box where you're joining us from, be awesome to see. In Portland, Oregon, that's where we're at. Texas. It's always fun to see where everyone's coming from. Southern California, North Carolina, and make sure everyone, and I'll be adjusting this before, but make sure you're turned to chatting with everyone and we can see your comments and questions in the chat. All right, just another second or two. Oh, another North Carolina. Okay, so while people are still coming in, I'm going to get started just with the housekeeping stuff that we need to go over. So thank you for joining us today for a very exciting topic on Certified Nutrition Specialist Pathways for ACHS Nutrition graduates. My name is Gina Schneps, and I'm the Marketing Manager here at American College of Healthcare Sciences. I'm going to be working behind the scenes today while our amazing panelists we have today are going to be presenting. So if you have any technical issues during the presentation, feel free to reach out to me in the chat box. I'll be happy to help. So just a couple of housekeeping items before we get started. You may have noticed that your line has been muted. So we are recording today's webinar, and this just helps ensure excellent sound quality for everyone who views the recording that we'll be emailing to, along with a copy of presentation slides later today. If you have any questions during the presentation, please don't be shy. Put them in the chat box. We'd love to hear from you during the webinar. We'll also be allowing time at the end for questions during our live Q&A. One thing to note about the chat box, like I said, there is a little drop down that determines who you send your chats to. One option is host panelists and the other is everyone. So just make sure you choose a drop down that says everyone so the entire audience can see your chats. So without further ado, let me hand it off to ACHS President Tracy Abel.
Well, thank you, Gina, and welcome everyone. I'm so excited to see you all, and I also want to welcome our wonderful panelists today. In addition to myself, we have Dr. Janet Ludwig, the ACHS Dean of Integrative Health and Nutrition, Dr. Patricia Kaufman, ACHS Assistant Professor and also a CNS Supervisor, and our guest, Amy Smith, the Senior Director of Certifications and Advocacy with the American Nutrition Association. So thank you, Amy, for joining us today. Before we get started with the CNS pathway information, we're going to share just a brief introduction about ACHS for those students who are new to our community and joining us perhaps for the first time. And very briefly, ACHS was founded in 1978 and with a mission of making integrative health and wellness education accessible to our global communities and really working to lead the advancement of integrative health and wellness education. In addition to being an accredited institution, we're also a certified B Corporation, which is a benefit corporation. And we offer studies that range from courses for personal health and wellness and our micro-credentials through our doctorate program. One of the programs that we'll be talking about specifically today is our Master of Science in Holistic Nutrition. Our mission, as I shared, is here, and our vision is that health and wellness education is accessible and that we are promoting sustainable and healthy futures for all. We're really excited about this new pathway that the BCNS, the board, and Amy Smith has helped us create for all of our Masters in Holistic Nutrition graduates. This is really going to be a tool that can create more opportunities for you to reach communities with your nutrition education. While I shared just a little bit more about ACHS and allow Janet to talk more about our program, I'm going to share a poll on the screen to help us learn a little bit more about who's joining us today. So if you'll take just a moment to tell us about your background, whether you're a current student here, whether you're a graduate, maybe just considering nutrition studies, or maybe you're already a practicing professional and you're looking at adding the CNS credential. So if you'll take a moment to answer that, we'll share the results shortly. As I mentioned, we have our special guest, Amy Smith, today, who is going to be presenting for the majority of this webinar. Briefly, we want to share with you a little bit about what you can expect in our nutrition courses, and then the specific degree that's been approved for eligibility to sit the CNS exam. So Janet, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Tracy.
And Janet, before you start, let me go ahead and share the results of our poll. So it looks like we have a little over half of our participants today are an ACHS student, 18% are an ACHS graduate, and about 27% of you are thinking about getting started. So thank you for telling us a little bit more.
All right, this is perfect. I'm Janet Ludwig, Dean of Integrative Health and Nutrition. I'm delighted to be here, and it's just wonderful to welcome you from all over the United States and even Central America too. I'll go ahead and talk to you a little bit about our programs, the actual nutrition courses that are part of the master's program. Of course, they provide you training for health, disease, lifestyle, and environment, and it's based upon science in addition to the holistic, complementary, and alternative medicine. This is such a unique school that brings together the holism as well as, of course, the traditional background of science. And we are delighted that you will not only be talking about counseling, psychology, as indicated in this representation here with advising. You will experience practical labs. They will actually be sent to you, and you will practice your consulting wellness coaching sessions with the expertise of your instructors. And the courses are actually taught by trained educators with degrees at the highest level, licenses and certifications. And these are doctors of philosophy, naturopathic doctors, masters and doctors of science in chiropractic medicine. And I'm here to answer any of your questions on that. At this point in time, here are the actual specifics of our Master of Science degree. This is in holistic nutrition, and you will learn the interrelationship between nutrition, health, and the overall well-being. You'll also learn about the physical, and that's okay, mental, emotional, all of that influences health. You can have your body healthy, but if your mind and your spirit is not, it's going to be an issue. And you will, of course, develop protocols and the methodology to pass this on to your clients, to educate others with it. And the program is 36 total credits. You will have a capstone project. It is fully online, and you can do this in a part-time or full-time options, and it can be completed in 60 weeks at the full-time basis. All right. We are aligned with these organizations. We are proud to be part of the National Association of Holistic Nutritionists, NANP, as well as, of course, the board certification for the holistic nutrition, BCHN, Certified Clinical Nutritionist. And today we're emphasizing the Certified Nutrition Specialist, and Amy Smith will be talking to us about this. And in some states, master's and doctorate programs do qualify to be licensed to practice. So I think these are a few of our capstone projects that for the master's program you will be completing. Of course, a systematic review, as well as these are examples of what has been presented as posters at our NANP conferences. And these were the capstone projects of some of our graduates: Haitian tradition of herbal medicine, therapeutic efficacy of curcumin across varied inflammatory pathologies, and what's so important now, gluten, the gut, and mental health disorders, that HPA axis. The Mediterranean diet, of course, and its effect on women's fertility. So you will experience all of these at the highest level. So at this point in time, Amy, I would love to turn this over to you. And we're here to answer questions. Thank
All
you.
right. Let me share my screen here and make sure we can see it. All right. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here today. So I am Amy Smith. I'm the Senior Director of Certifications and Advocacy for the American Nutrition Association. So I oversee all of the certification processes for the ANA, and I also oversee all of the advocacy efforts. So just a little agenda of what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to give you an overview of the ANA. We're going to talk about the CNS, the benefits of the CNS and how to get it. And then we'll just do a little bit of advocacy from the CNS perspective. So first, to talk a little bit about the American Nutrition Association. So we believe in the power of nutrition, and our values are based on this. So at the ANA, we believe that nutrition is a science, it is a healthcare, it is a medicine, it is personal, it is an ecosystem, and most importantly, it is for everyone. The ANA is actually made up of 3 organizations. So the umbrella organization or the membership organization is the American Nutrition Association. And then we have 2 arms off of the American Nutrition Association. The first is the Board for Certification of Nutrition Specialists, or the BCNS. And this is actually the certification arm of the ANA. So we handle all of the different certifications that we have within that arm, as well as advocacy efforts. And then we also have the ACNPE, which is our accrediting arm, which stands for the Accreditation Council for Nutrition Professional Education. So our accrediting arm actually accredits different master's programs to ensure that they meet the competencies required for the CNS. So when we're talking about the ANA, we're talking about these 3 organizations together as a family. At the ANA, we have 4 pillars that we focus on. So the first one is educate. So we do this a couple of different ways. We do have a continuing education content membership. We also have ANA trainings. So our trainings are geared towards the nutrition professional. So we have one on nutrigenomics, we have one on ketogenic nutrition, and then we also have training for healthcare professionals who already have nutrition in their scope of practice. So this might be an MD, a DO, an ND. And so we have our Integrating Nutrition into Practice series, which is meant to train those professionals who don't have as much nutrition experience to bring that into their practice. The second pillar is certification. So we have 4 certifications. The first one being our flagship certification, and the one we're here to talk about today, which is the Certified Nutrition Specialist, or the CNS. We also offer the CKNS, which is the Certified Ketogenic Nutrition Specialist, the CNGS, which is the Certified Nutrigenomic Specialist, and the CPNP, the Certified Personalized Nutrition Practitioner. So besides the CNS, these other 3 certifications are things that can be earned by completing our trainings and then completing a certification exam. So it is not as extraneous of a pathway as the CNS, but it doesn't increase your scope of practice or any kind of licensure in that respect. So the CNS is the only certification that we have that actually has a scope of practice and provides a pathway to licensure. The third pillar is advocate. So at the ANA, we believe that all nutrition professionals should be able to practice to their level of training and expertise. And so this is every nutrition professional. We believe there's room for everyone at the table. So this is herbalists, this is health coaches, NDs, RDs, CNSs. So we believe that there's room for everyone and plenty of people out there that need our help. And finally, the 4th pillar is to connect. So we have our CNS Connect program, which was developed a few years ago. The main goal of that program is to bridge the gap between when you graduate and actually starting your practice. So it focuses a lot on business building and the skills that you need to be an entrepreneur and a nutrition professional that you didn't necessarily learn in your degree program. We also have CNS candidate support. So we have a Facebook group, which I will provide a link to later on. And then we do webinars like this one that we offer to students that are interested in the CNS pathway. Again, we have our content membership, which I'll talk a little bit about in just a second. And then we offer networking and different events. So most recently, we collaborated with the Institute for Functional Medicine at their annual conference that was a few weeks ago. And we provided an ANA pathway to personalized nutrition through that conference, and also did some networking events, which were a lot of fun there in Las Vegas. So we have the ANA membership. So this is our content membership. If anyone used to be a member of the ANA in the past, it's kind of changed a little bit in the last 6 or 9 months. So it looks a little bit different. So we offer continuing education for our certified nutrition specialists and other nutrition professionals, but we do have student pricing. So this student pricing does not give access to the continuing education, usually because most students don't need it at that point. But once you graduate and become a CNS, you can upgrade to a professional membership. We offer 3 to 5 new webinars each month. So those are based on a theme of the month. So for example, this month we have Hormone Month. So we had a really great CNS speak about how to tell if it's really your hormones and how to do assessment to determine if it's really hormones that are playing into someone's signs and symptoms. So we have great webinars. Those are conducted by CNSs usually each month. And then we offer 2 different types of handouts each month. We have clinical reference sheets, which are made for you to use in your practice. So these are things like around the theme, things like reading labs and signs and symptoms of those conditions. And then we have a nutrient of the month, again, related to the theme. So this is meant to be a handout that you can give directly to your client to try and save you a little bit of time. But for example, this month it was iodine for Hormone Month. So as I mentioned, we have student pricing there, and I can provide a link to the membership later on as well. So let's jump into the CNS. So first, let's talk about the benefits of becoming a certified nutrition specialist. So the CNS is a certification and not a licensure. So I want to make sure we're really clear about the differences in that. So a license usually provides some form of the ability to practice, usually at a state level. A certification shows that you have a certain that you possess the knowledge and skills of a certain set of competencies. So in the case of the CNS, that set of competencies is what we call personalized nutrition and medical nutrition therapy. So this sets the standards for the given discipline. So for the CNS, they have a scope of practice that's based on personalized nutrition and medical nutrition therapy. And by becoming a CNS, you have that scope of practice. And like many certifications, it is based on the 3 E's: education, experience, and examination. So a lot of different programs that offer pathways to licensure are based on these 3 E's. So if anyone is a registered dietitian or familiar with that pathway, it is also based on the 3 E's as well. And so we're going to talk about all of those in detail. The CNS certification is accredited by the National Commission for Certifying Agencies, or NCCA. And the NCCA is essentially the credentialing body of certification programs. So it's the certification of certifications. So it's something that shows that you meet a defined set of standards and that you have went through a robust process to become accredited. So we're very proud to have that. Having the accreditation also shows that we have credibility at with the regulatory bodies, with other professionals, with the public, insurers, and other stakeholders. It is a trusted third-party verification, and it also demonstrates that we have psychometric validity to our examination. So that is part of the requirements to get approved by the NCCA. So there are several different career paths for the CNS, and I think I've really seen this change over the last 5 years or so. It used to be very much, at least when I was first getting my CNS, it was very much a private practice route. So a lot of CNSs kind of planned to go into private practice once they graduated and got their certification. And I've seen that shift a bit more into some other opportunities over the last several years. So we're seeing a lot more nutrition professionals working in integrated clinics, functional medicine clinics. A lot of them becoming writers, bloggers, podcasters, and some of this is for themselves. So I also know some CNSs who are doing ghostwriting for different organizations and different websites. We're seeing more and more CNSs in the teaching field, both in academia and research. And we're seeing a lot more on licensing boards. So any state where CNSs can be licensed, a CNS has to sit on the board in that state. And so we're really starting to see a shift of a lot of CNSs becoming active at the state level on those boards and within different nonprofits. There's of course always room in research. And one of the areas that is really available right now is within supplement companies. So that can be in research and also in sales. Community nutrition is a big piece. Culinary nutrition, and then we're seeing a lot more group programs where people are not necessarily wanting to only do one-on-one care. They also want to work with groups, which is really great. Okay, so the 3 E's of the CNS pathway. So we're going to talk about each of these in detail. We've got education, exam, and experience. So for education, there's 2 parts. We have the degree requirement and the coursework requirement. The exam is a 200 multiple choice exam. You get 4 hours to take it. We offer it twice a year. Right now, that is in June and December. The application period usually is usually due 2 months before that, the exam. So if you're going to take the exam in December, the application deadline is in October. And so we offer those at test centers around the world. They're everywhere in the US, but also around the world as well. And then we have the experience piece. So we do require 1,000 hours of what we call supervised practice experience. So in other careers, this might be something like a residency or an internship. We use the term supervised practice experience. And this has to be done with a BCNS approved supervisor. So we'll talk about each of these things in details, and make sure if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat and we can address them at the end. So first is the degree requirement. So you can either have a master's of science or a doctoral degree in the field of nutrition. So the master's in holistic nutrition from ACHS is going to meet this requirement. We also do accept doctoral degrees in other health fields. So chiropractors, naturopathic doctors, they do have to be from a regionally accredited institution or a foreign equivalent. And then we require 36 credit hours from institutionally accredited institutions. So we'll go through all of these in detail to show you what courses you're going to take as part of your degree program that sets you up for the CNS pathway. But the total number is 36 semester credit hours. Okay, so let's look at the different requirements. So the first one is graduate level nutrition. So this is the only category that has to be at the graduate level. Luckily, when you're doing the Master's of Holistic Nutrition program at ACHS, you're going to already meet all of the requirements. So I'm just going to show you the breakdown of how that works. So the first piece is the 12 credits of graduate level nutrition. So examples that will fit into this category are going to be your advanced applied holistic nutrition course, your advanced sports nutrition, graduate topics in holistic nutrition, and nutrition and dietary supplements. So each of those are 3 credit courses that will meet this requirement. Next, we require 6 credits of biochemistry. This can be at the graduate or undergraduate level, but as part of the degree program, you're going to have your micro and macronutrients for integrative health. Both of these are going to be part of the biochemistry pathway. So together you'll have the 6 credits. We require 3 credits of anatomy and physiology. Again, this can be graduate or undergraduate. So your anatomy and physiology 1 class will meet this 3 credit piece that's required. We require 12 credits of clinical and life sciences. So really this is any of the other sciences that don't fit into that nutrition category. It can be graduate or undergraduate, and it can actually be any of the overflow nutrition courses. So if you have nutrition courses from another institution, you could definitely count that here as well. But from the program here, you're going to have anatomy and physiology 2, integrative pathophysiology, integrative health pathology and protocols, and your master's capstone project. So that's going to add up to meet your 12 credit requirement. And then the final category is behavioral science. Again, this can be graduate or undergraduate. And so 3 credits are required, which are going to be met with your wellness, coaching, and communication skills course. So that's the education E. So let's move on to the examination. So you can take the examination anytime after graduation. So you have to have met the degree requirement and the coursework requirement. So anytime after you graduate, and you can apply for that. As I mentioned, the deadline is usually a couple of months before the actual exam. So when you go to apply for that, you're going to submit a coursework form, which we have provided an example to the school. So they have that on hand. We'll also have it available if you need it. But it'll have all the courses separated into those categories. You'll request your official transcripts to be emailed directly from the school to us. And then you're going to need 2 letters of recommendation. So these need to also be emailed directly from the writer to the BCNS. And so you're going to want someone to write your letters of recommendation that were in some sort of professional role. So it could be a professor, it could be a supervisor, it could be a boss or a manager if you work in a healthcare field or in a clinic or a setting or something like that, but it's going to need to be 2 letters of recommendation from someone that you've worked with in an educational professional setting. So letters from clients, friends and family, those won't work for these letters of recommendation. And then finally, we need a resume. We're not looking for, a lot of details. We're not looking for, the most beautiful resume that you've ever handed. We're just looking for a real basic resume to show your degrees and your education and career pathways. So the coursework form and the resume you're going to upload into your portal. In order to do that, you do have to pay a $100 application fee to get the process started. And like I said, you want to make sure that you're paying attention to the time frame to make sure you get everything in by the deadline. We also do offer accommodations. So if you have any ADA accommodation requests, that needs to be submitted at the same time. So in that portal, there is a place that you can get a letter from your doctor to have any kind of ADA accommodations that you might need. Just make sure you submit that with your exam application. We're always happy to accommodate. So once you submit everything, it comes over to the BCNS side and we look over it. Once everything is approved, we send your approval letter and you'll get notification to pay the exam fee. So the exam fee itself is $400 and that's paid after you're approved, but before you take the exam. And then the final fee is $83, which is paid to the test center. So you're going to pay that up at the time that you register for the exam. So that'll be after your approval. And so that's paid directly to Prometric. And that's done when you actually schedule your exam at the test center. Okay, so let's talk a bit about the experience piece. So this is that final E. So we've got the education, we've got the exam. I want to mention before I move on that you can take the exam anytime after you graduate, but we do recommend, or we do see people do better on the exam if they do have some of their supervised practice experience completed before they sit, or before they sit for the exam. So you can take it as soon as you want to after graduation, but keep that in mind that it is a clinical exam. So having some of your SPE completed, or even a good amount of it, will probably help you do better on the exam. Again, it's not required. So I'm going to go really into detail about the supervised practice experience, but just an overview. So we require 1,000 hours. Those are separated into 3 separate categories. And there's a 200-hour minimum in each of those 3 categories, which I'll talk about in just a second. We also count the time with your supervisor within those 1,000 hours. So that might be, that's going to be when you're talking about your client cases with your supervisor, but it could also be grand rounds or group meetings with your supervisor. Those also count as time with your supervisor. So you're going to have 200 hours in each category, and the other 400 remaining categories are going to be that time with your supervisor, or they can be split among those categories. And you want to make sure that you're using the BCNS provided SPE candidate report to track your hours. So I will provide a link to this at the end. So you want to make sure that you're using that the entire time, because you're going to have to submit that at the end and it shows the breakdown of all of your hours. We have just recently changed the tracker in the last 18 months or so. It is based on the tracker that is required for the hardest state to be licensed in, which is currently North Carolina. So North Carolina requires that you break down every single hour and tell them what you did. And so we based the tracker on that because we want to ensure anyone that is eligible for licensure in their state is able to get it. And so we created this tracker based on that tracker. There's a couple of tutorials online that I'll provide links to as well. So if you have questions, I don't want that tracker to be intimidating, but do know, we're looking for you to track all 1,000 hours on that one document. So the goals of the supervised practice experience are to address the CNS SPE competencies, which we have available on the website. They're also in that tracker, but essentially those competencies are the things that we believe you should be able to do to be a competent CNS. It is designed to be flexible, so it is meant to be not necessarily a rigid internship. It's meant to be flexible so you can do it at your pace. And it is meant to meet the state licensing statutes and regulations. So like I said, we want to make sure that if you are able to be licensed in your state, that you have the ability to do so once you get your certification. You can start your hours anytime once you matriculated into your degree program. So matriculated is beginning your degree program, not graduating, because people always get that confused. So once you've started your degree program, you can start earning your hours. We do suggest that, if you're going to be working on direct hours, that with clients one-on-one that you do have, that you have completed your basic nutrition courses, because it will be required for you to be able to, to work with a client that that basic nutrition. So a lot of supervisors will not usually start taking on candidates until they're in their second to last semester, just to make sure they have all of that basic nutrition knowledge. And we do suggest that you have, that you work with multiple venues and supervisors. Dr. Kaufman is a BCNS approved supervisor, so she's a great resource if you're interested in learning more about the clinical hours. She can answer your questions from the ACHS side, but we also are happy to answer any questions that you have about getting your hours. So I'm going to talk about it in more detail, so definitely add your questions if you have any. So there's two types of hours. We need direct experience and indirect experience. The direct experience, you must have at least 750 hours. And this direct experience is you working one-on-one or with a group, but you working directly with a client. So this might be counseling individuals or groups. It might be, activities that you're doing related to that client. So doing chart notes, creating your treatment plans, doing research for that client. You're probably maybe talking to their other healthcare providers. You're working on collaborative care. Those are all going to count for direct hours. Participating in community education. If you are in the state of Florida, you are required to have 200 hours of community education to be licensed there. So please reach out to me if you are, even if you're in at the student stage. If you're in Florida, go ahead and let me know. I'll provide my email at the end of the presentation. We have a state mentor that can help kind of set you up so you know exactly what you need to apply for licensure. But as a CNS, to get licensure in Florida, you do have to have 200 community education hours. It's not required in any other state, but we just like to make sure that people that are in that state are prepared and know what to expect before they get there. And again, anytime you spend with your supervisor, which could be in grand rounds, it could be a one-on-one meeting, is going to count as direct hours. It is expected that you talk through every case with your supervisor. So there is no requirement of how many hours you have to meet with your supervisor. Usually kind of rule of thumb, it's about 1 hour for every 40 hours. But it really depends on your experience level and the discretion of your supervisor, but you want to make sure you're talking to your supervisor through about all of your cases. The second type of hours is indirect experience, and you can have up to 250 hours in this category. And so this is non-direct client care. So it might be things like watching a supervisor, shadowing your supervisor and creating a treatment plan. It could be things like case studies, listening to videos of clients and practitioner interactions and discussing those with your supervisor. A lot of those hours are usually collected through doing case studies and creating treatment plans. So you can have up to 250 indirect hours. Indirect hours are not required. So depending on your situation, you might be able to start with direct hours immediately. Usually people that have less experience working with clients will usually want to start with those indirect hours. If you're someone who's maybe already seeing clients, maybe as an herbalist or something else before they moved on to this pathway, maybe you have more experience in that area. So you may not need as many indirect hours. So it's really up for you and your supervisor to kind of discuss and decide upon. The following activities do not count for hours. So research for the sake of researching. So research is a great way to study for the exam, but if it's not directly related to a client case, it does not count for hours. Writing books, articles, and blogs, teaching classes in an academic setting, developing condition-based training programs and treatment protocols that are not related to your current clients. These are great ways to get clients, and again, great ways to study for the exam, but if it's not directly related to a client you're working with, it does not count for hours. Presenting educational lectures, videos, webinars for academics or for a mass audience. So something like doing a Facebook Live or doing a YouTube video, again, is a great way to get clients, but isn't going to count for hours. And then again, watching any kind of lectures, videos, and webinars that are not related to your current client will not count for hours. So I don't want to spend too much time on this because you'll get the slides, but just to give you a little overview of the different categories. So we have category A, which is personalized nutrition assessment and interpretation. So think of A as assessment. So this is going to be the things you do from the time you're going to get their paperwork all the way through that first session. So you're probably most likely going to be assessing their health history, their lab markers, their different medications to look for drug interactions. Maybe you're looking over their their diet journal, their food journal. So these are all things that you're doing in that beginning, that first session, and you're assessing. So think of A as assessment. So that's going to be that first session that you're having with them. Category B is personalized nutrition intervention, education, counseling, and ongoing care. So this is what happens after you meet with them. This is you creating their treatment plan and their protocol. Maybe you're creating handouts for them based on what you talked about. Maybe you're doing some instruction on food preparation. Maybe you're doing a grocery store tour with them. So these are the things where you're creating and educating them. You're creating their treatment plan, and you're covering all those lifestyle factors. You're covering all the diet factors, and you're creating that plan for them to move forward. This also, category B also includes community education. So if you're doing any type of group program, or you're doing education, for example, maybe you're doing a presentation on high blood pressure for a senior citizen center, that would count in category B as education. And then category C is going to be nutrition monitoring and evaluation. So think of this as your follow-up. I always get the question, well, what if they bring me new labs and it's in a follow-up session and I'm assessing them? Could it be category A? Of course, you know, this is not necessarily a black and white scenario. So kind of thinking about where you need hours and what you're doing, you can decide which category they go best in. But I always suggest reaching out to your supervisor and asking them if you're unsure what area, what category an hours belong in. But thinking of A as assessment, category A is assessment, category B is your treatment plan and your education, category C is your follow-up. So how do you find a supervisor? This is always a hot topic. So first of all, you can reach out to us for a list of supervisors. We do not post it on the website because it changes quite frequently, but we do have it available by state. Depending on what state you live in, you may be required to have a CNS that's licensed in that state. So if that state requires a license to practice, your supervisor will need to be licensed there. That does not necessarily mean that they have to live there. So keep that in mind when you're looking for a supervisor. If you're unsure of your state laws, please, check out our website, reach out to me. We can offer some guidance, but that's one of the things you're going to want to consider. You may want to consider your work setting. So if you're already working in a clinic or, working with a functional doctor, an integrative doctor or something like that, maybe they could supervise you. We do approve supervisors that are not already on the list. They do have to have a master's degree or higher in nutrition, or another healthcare field. So we can do MDs, DOs, NDs. They can be your supervisor. They do have to have 75 hours of nutrition continued education in the last 5 years. So we can definitely approve people that are not on the list, but make sure, number one rule, that you get them approved before you start collecting hours. I have unfortunately had a candidate turn in their hours at the very end and not have their supervisor approved, and they had to redo them because they didn't meet the requirements. So number one rule, if they don't come from the list, please get them approved before you move forward. And then there's also, you can also go to networking events and things like that when you're looking for a supervisor. Like I said, let us know if you need a list, and definitely reach out to Dr. Kaufman if you have questions about supervision. So you can get supervision in several different settings. It can be a clinical setting, it can be a community setting, it can be an institutional setting. So we don't see so many CNSs doing internships at hospitals or things like that, but you most definitely could. Doesn't mean that you can't. We are seeing more and more people working in like WIC clinics and Head Start. So those are opportunities there. It may be in a home healthcare setting. And again, it could be part of an internship or residency or a clinical rotation. We see that less often, but it could absolutely be in that area, and any combination of those things. So again, you don't have to stay with the same supervisor the entire time. We definitely suggest that you get a wide range of experience. Even if you want to specialize in something, you do want to make sure you have a wide range of experience in your supervision. So it's great if you know that you want to specialize on IBS, that's wonderful, but make sure during your SPE, you're really making sure you're getting experience in all areas. So again, you can start your supervision anytime after you start your program. You'll want to have those basic nutrition courses done before you begin with any direct hours. If you don't have much experience with clinical care, you may want to start with those indirect hours first. And we do see people do better on the exam after they have completed at least some of those SPE hours. When you turn in your documents, there'll be a few different things. You'll have your tracker. Again, I'll put a link to that in just a moment. So you'll have the one tracker for all your hours, and then each supervisor you work with will submit a supervisor report at the end. If they are not approved as a supervisor, you'll want to make sure they complete the application before you begin. And then we have the SP report and some tutorials available online. So real quick, I want to make sure we have plenty of time for questions. So I'm going to go through the advocacy piece, and then we should still have about 15 minutes. So as I mentioned before, our core principles that we believe all nutrition professionals and really all professionals in general should be able to practice to their level of education and training within their scope of practice. So most of our advocacy work happens at the state level. So number one, we are always advocating for a pathway to licensure for CNSs. So when I'm going through this information, I'm doing it from the perspective of the CNS. So I do know that ACHS has other different professions that may have different routes. So just keep that in mind when I'm talking through this. This is specifically for the CNS. But when we are advocating for those pathways for the CNSs, we're also always making sure that we're providing adequate exemptions for other nutrition practitioners. So we want to make sure that health coaches and supplement reps and all of these people that work that are so important to the ecosystem are able to practice to their scope of practice as well. So currently 53 of the 53 US jurisdictions, so we're counting the 50 states, DC, Guam, and Puerto Rico, CNSs can practice to some level of personalized nutrition counseling in 46 of those states. So currently there are 7 states that we are completely unable to practice in. And so when we're saying some level of personalized nutrition, some of the laws are older than others. So the newer laws are including the term medical nutrition therapy, which is within the scope of the CNS and the registered dietitian. So in some states, it requires a license to practice medical nutrition therapy. And in some states, you don't have to have a license and you can practice personalized nutrition counseling. So make sure, depending on your state, that you're aware of what those definitions are within that state, because it is kind of nuanced, but it is important. So 19 states currently have licensure or certification pathways for CNSs. And some states still have some outdated laws that prohibit us from practicing altogether. So some examples of that are Tennessee, for example. I actually was in Tennessee when I got my master's degree, and I had moved across the state lines into Virginia so I could get my CNS. So some states are there's just no wiggle room. And in some states, we work within different exceptions or different exemptions that are created within the law. There's really 2 different types of licensure. So the most popular one in licensed states is exclusive scope. So this means that you have to have a license to practice some aspect of nutrition and dietetics. So this is where that medical nutrition therapy comes in. So examples of that are North Carolina, New Jersey, North Dakota, Maryland, Florida, Delaware. And then some states have exemptions that allow us to practice. So Georgia is a really good example of this. So in Georgia, there's only a pathway to licensure for registered dietitians, but anyone who has a master's degree in nutrition or higher is able to practice in the state of Georgia through an exemption. So some states allow us to practice through those kind of loopholes. And then we have non-exclusive scope states. So these are states that it is more of a voluntary process. So Connecticut is an example of this, where they have certification. It's not required to practice, but if you did want to take insurance in those states, it would be required. So depending on your state, that might be something to consider. And then there's one state that has no regulation at this point, which is Arizona. It used to be Michigan and Arizona, but that changed early this year. We did have a bill in Arizona that was a dual pathway bill for registered dietitians and CNSs, but it looks like it's not going to go through. So at this point, Arizona is the only state that has no regulation at all. Here's just a quick glimpse at the list. The ones on the left there are states that you would have to have a license in to practice as a CNS or to practice medical nutrition therapy. Or you'd have to be a registered dietitian or a CNS. And then on the right side, we have our non-exclusive scope states. So this is more of that voluntary piece that I was talking about. And then one state has title protection and no licensure. So that's where I'm at in Virginia. So we don't have a pathway to licensure, but you have to be a registered dietitian to call yourself a dietitian, or a CNS to call yourself a nutritionist. And that's the only state that has laws like that. We do have some tools on the website, so you'll have these links later. And we have some action alerts and things like that on there. So just make sure you check those out. Again, if you have state specific questions, please feel free to reach out and we can make sure we get those answered. All right, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to put a few things in the chat and then we will jump into, I see lots of questions.
Could I ask you 2 questions, Amy, just to clarify? And we have some in the chat that, as you just said, that we weren't quite able to answer. So one thing you mentioned is, while you're in your educational program, to start tracking your hours. And you mentioned that in most cases, supervisors will want students to be maybe in their second to last semester. So it is a little while before they're starting to track those hours. I just wanted to clarify so students don't think, okay, just start tracking what you're doing. You're tracking the hours under supervision.
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
So you need to have established your supervisor, and then it's really at the discretion of your supervisor, right? So if you're at the beginning, about midway through your program and you're doing indirect hours, they may be fine with that. But usually most supervision, the larger supervision programs require you to be in your last or second to last semester before they will accept you.
Okay. And then what you mentioned about Florida and the 200 hours of community education, if you achieve those, do those 200 hours also count toward your direct hours? Perfect. I assume so. I just wanted to ask.
Absolutely. And they're the only state that has that requirement. So just make sure if you're in that state that you reach out to us, we'll put you in contact. Even if you're as a student, you're still kind of unsure about where you're going to get your supervision, just reach out to us and let us know. If you're in North Carolina, Florida, those are the main 2 that have a few hurdles that you'll want to be aware of. So reach out to us and we have a state mentor that we can put you in contact with.
Okay, great.
Those are good. We have a few questions in the chat. Actually, Guillermo is asking about Texas when you were going through the states. That wasn't on that last list.
Yeah, so Texas does not, they do license dietitians, they do not license CNSs, but you do not have to have a license to practice. So Texas is on our radar. If there are some folks in Texas who are wanting to change that. So we'll see if anything comes of that. But if anyone is interested in getting involved in advocacy, we are getting ready to release a toolkit towards the end of the summer. It's going to really provide details on how you do advocacy efforts at the state level, at grassroots efforts, and how the ANA can support you. Unfortunately, we are a very small but mighty advocacy group. So having CNSs and candidates and other nutrition professionals that are interested in helping with that work is always appreciated. So let me know. And we'll have those tools out, like I said, towards the end of the summer, and they'll be available on the website.
Good.
Oh, that's great. And we really encourage students to get involved in advocacy, in addition to Amy's advocacy resources. If you're interested in participating at your local and state level, please let us know. We work with a few different organizations to advocate for our students and professional pathways. We would love to have your energy and expertise as part of those initiatives. I see another question from Angela asking about whether there is a limit to how many hours each visit can count for, and can a single visit count as multiple categories?
2 great questions. So yes, it can count for multiple categories. On the tracker, when you see that, you're essentially going to do 1 line per client per day. So you might have several lines per day, which is absolutely fine. As far as how long can a session last, I think that there's no rule to it, but I think that it's going to depend on your experience level. So we do expect that in the beginning, it would be normal for you to spend maybe 6 hours on a client case, where later on, closer to the end of your hours, it might take you 2 hours. So I think really working with your supervisor to make sure that you're spending your time wisely, but there is no limit. So if if you're spending 6 hours on a client case, please count those hours.
Good.
That's great. Lori is asking about resources for each state, specifically California and Oregon. And I think we'll be sharing those links with our follow-up from this.
Yeah, so we've got a link on the website. We'll make sure everybody gets. Also, NANP has a great resource. The Academy has a great resource. So there's more than one. And so make sure you're really, looking at all of those different resources. And again, make sure you're really looking at your specific state laws. If you're doing telehealth, it's important to remember that you have to follow the law of the state you are in and the state that your client is in. So keep that in mind if you're going that telehealth route. Just because you don't necessarily need a license in your state doesn't mean you'd be able to just work with anyone.
Good.
There's also a question that is specific to ACHS. We have two institutions, I think you might know, Amy, that we've partnered with in a teach-out partnership. One of them is Hawthorne University, and one is Huntington University of Health Sciences. And so we have a few questions from those teach-out students if they would now be eligible to apply to sit the exam. And I think the evaluation process you have would create that opportunity.
Absolutely, yes. And we've heard, I think Huntington, I heard from recently that they were interested in kind of getting the review. But yes, if you're from one of the schools that are institutionally accredited that wasn't previously eligible, you are now eligible. So just make sure you're meeting the degree requirements and the coursework requirements, which if you have questions about, let me know. But absolutely, you will qualify for the exam.
Wonderful. And there's also a question about our doctorate program, which started last fall and has a functional nutrition specialization. Janet, do you want to speak to that?
Of course, yes. And we are working on getting that approved, and we are hoping to get that soon. So I think that's where Ashley Gomez has asked about it, and she had actually transferred over from Huntington. So yes, we are working on the doctoral program and getting that approved. At the moment, it is, as far as ACHS is concerned, it's a Master of Holistic Nutrition, but soon, all right?
And, the program started last fall, so we do have some time before anyone will be ready to take the exam, but I would imagine in the very near future, we can officially, we'll be able to work with Amy on that approval. And in the meantime, if someone did, I don't think we have anyone this semester who's graduating, but through the teach out, but if they did, I'm sure they could go through the same portfolio review assessment. So
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think we had a question about reciprocity within states too. Can you speak to that, Amy, relative to reciprocity? I know that's
So
unique.
some states offer licensure through reciprocity. The main one that comes to mind is Ohio, which was a state that we historically were not allowed to be licensed in until late last year in December. They approved a licensure through reciprocity amendment that did allow us to start being licensed there. So that in that state, in Ohio specifically, you have to have a license for 1 year in a different state and then can apply for licensure there. So right now, that's our only pathway in Ohio to be licensed. Other states do offer reciprocity. So Oregon is an example. It is not required to have a license in Oregon to practice, but they do offer reciprocity. And so there are other states that do it. Usually the rule is that if you're going to apply through reciprocity, you have to prove that that their licensure requirements meet or exceed that state's licensure requirements. So depending on the law, sometimes that's a little difficult. I think that's why a lot of states don't really go that route with the CNS licensure, but it is possible. Ohio is the best example of that, though.
And just one other thing to note is you don't have to live in the state to get licensed. And I think Amy mentioned that before. But example of that would be you can get licensed in Maryland, where a lot of CNS graduates or people that got their certification do go on to get licensed in Maryland so that they have that license behind their name.
Yeah. And so Maryland is historically the easiest place for CNSs to be licensed. So you can get it within a couple of days. They're very CNS friendly. We work very closely with the board there. And so we do have the most CNSs licensed in the state, almost about 400 right now. They don't all live in Maryland. So for example, I'm in Virginia, I'm licensed in Maryland. So a lot of CNSs that live in states that don't require licensure go that route so that they can have that LDN designation with their name and then perhaps apply for, to take insurance. If that's something that you're interested in, which is, of course, a personal choice there. We have lots of CNSs that do cash pay. We do have some that choose to do insurance. For a lot of people, it's an access, thing. So it really depends on how you want your practice to move forward.
more questions?
Looks like we have one more from Dory. She says that she noticed one of the education coursework requirements was NAT 503, Integrative Pathophysiology. Is this a new course in the master's? So we do have some updates for the master's in holistic nutrition that are effective for our, I think our summer 2 and or fall semester. But what we can do is work with you and Amy on mapping the existing program requirements, which we've done for other students as well. So
Yeah, don't panic. If your application doesn't look exactly like what I showed you, don't panic. There's definitely room for us to work together, especially if you have transfer credits or something. So don't feel like it has to look just like what I showed on the screen.
And Stephanie has shared a great question. We do have a few other master's degrees, such as our Master of Health and Wellness, Integrative Health, and that does have elective components. The Master's of Integrative Health is really an interdisciplinary degree. So within choosing those electives, students would also meet the requirements of the CNS exam based on the curriculum that Amy outlined. So we can certainly, again, work with you and with Amy. They have a very straightforward form that allows you to indicate the courses that meet the curriculum requirements. So again, as Amy just said, please know that is an option, and we're happy to help you in that. And especially if you have some electives you haven't taken yet and you're thinking this is a direction you might want to go, then we can work with you to think about those electives that would best fit with this particular pathway. Does anybody else have any questions?
I'm going to put those links back in here one more time, just in case anybody missed them. I know they kind of flew to the top there with some questions, but there's a link there to the candidate Facebook group. So we consider anyone who's thinking about becoming a CNS a candidate. So if you're a student or you're graduating, you're working on your SPE, we consider you a candidate. If you are active on Facebook, it's a really great group. It's a great place to ask questions and to get to know others that are on the pathway. The CNS exam content outline is on there. So we just updated the content outline this year. So that will be for the next 5 years. It talks about each domain that will be on the exam. There's some exam prep ideas on there. That SPE report that I spoke about earlier, a couple of tutorials, and then an email to reach my team. So if you have any certification or any advocacy questions, feel free to reach out to that email, or if you need a supervisor list.
Wonderful. Go ahead, Janet, sorry.
No, it's just great having all this interest and all this information and, the avenues that, can accommodate this pathway. It's so important.
Absolutely.
And
Well,
reach out to all of us, please.
and we will be sharing the slides from today. So that will be available to you along with the resources that Amy has shared with us. Our admissions team, several of whom are on the line with us today, are also available to answer any questions you have. So we can try to put that up, but we'll include that in our follow-up email. So as Janet said, do reach out. Amy is an incredible resource. She's super responsive. So thank you. And Patricia, who is also Dr. Kaufman, who is also a supervisor, is available to answer questions.
Really.
Let us know how we can help you.
Yeah. Thank you all. It's been great talking with you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you,
Yeah.
Dr. Kaufman and Dr.
Thank
Ludwig.
you.
We appreciate you.
Thank you. It's great.